Hi, my name is Mike Gamble, and I'm a producer for BioWare.
Loved ones.
Remember, we're a team. I'm right there with you.
It's a freelancer job. Always has been.
Yeah, so it was really difficult to kind of combine the shared world and the narrative approaches. So difficult that we had to basically put it into the DNA of the game. So what you might have heard or seen is kind of this sense of my story, our world, or our world, my story. So when you play the game, what you see is Fort Tarsis as your primary place for story, characters, speaking with them, learning about them, talking with them more, kind of doing things at your own pace. And then when you go out in the world on the adventures, then that's more of the cooperative experience. Then that's when everyone kind of comes together and then plays as a unit. So having designed the game really around that principle, we're able to kind of do both the world and the storytelling in the world, but also the individual storytelling in Fort Tarsis. There's this narrative, there's this ongoing context in the game of the Shapers and their tools that were kind of left behind, which are constantly transforming and making the world chaotic. Now that is the world context. Of course, then there's a story that associates you with the freelancer squad, with Owen and Faye and all these great characters who have to stop the Dominion from kind of taking over and trying to use the Anthem of Creation. So that's the story, and we actually resolve that within the game. But the problem of the Shaper ruins and the chaos is kind of an ever-present threat in the world, and then that allows us to tell further live service and additional stories later on. Yeah, in free play, sometimes you'll come across them fighting each other. Whether it's outlaws battling against Scar, or whether it's Dominion trying to clear out outlaws as they take over more territory. Like, you do see kind of the interplay between them. Not in the launch game, but we have a lot of ideas for what we want to show next in terms of locations. And that's definitely something on our mind. So it is definitely, so the types of enemies that appear do change. The makeup of which ones show up versus which ones don't based on difficulty are definitely there. In addition, the classifications of enemies, so to use an example, instead of 2 Ascari Elder and 2 Titan show up, it would be 3 Ascari Elder, 2 Titan, and then some Scar, or something like that. And then, of course, within each of them there would be like the lesser, the normal, and the legendary versions of those, and those can change as well. So those are the primary ways which creature composition change for difficulty. So the mission difficulty does change based on the number of players. So we have balance for 1 player, 2, 3, and 4, and obviously the more number of players, the more ability to combo, the more ability to do damage, therefore the difficulty has to go up. So you will see that when you play the game. So we never actually limit the missions by javelins. So for example, there'll never be something that you absolutely need all 4 javelins to pass. However, we think that with the difficulty balance the way that it is, and with the amount of teamwork that we're trying to encourage, having a well-balanced team is your best way to victory. If you have a group of 4 extremely skilled players who want to do it all as storms or all as interceptors, that is entirely viable, it's possible. The difficulty then just goes up exponentially based on not having a balanced team. For example, some areas, some missions are going to have a lot of ranged attacks. Creatures, and that's kind of the way it is. If you go into that mission with 4 interceptors, you can guarantee that you're going to have a lot more challenge taking out those ranged attack creatures as opposed to ones that are up close, because the interceptor is primarily an up close melee type build. So if you go in with 4 of those, you're going to find yourself dying a lot more, and then hopefully eventually people will realize that they should probably take a storm into that mission. And of course there's examples of that all throughout the game. Yeah, absolutely. Monster Hunter was a huge influence for us. It's a great game, it's a great franchise. How to separate players between kind of a public cooperative event and a private, more personal-based hub and gathering area, like we love that. We take inspiration from all different games. Monster Hunter is definitely part of that group. Yeah, we found that the ability to play multiplayer and cooperative games, there's a lot of friction usually for games. So for Anthem, we did a drop-in and drop-out type mechanic where you can quick play into another person's game. It doesn't really matter what difficulty that game is or where in the story they are. obviously the game will try and matchmake you correctly up front, but you can be anywhere in the story and still get matchmade into another person's game. It'll give you a little warning that you haven't played the mission yet. We want to kind of make that seamless. Likewise, playing different difficulties and different skill levels. So if you're level 30 and I'm level 5 and I want to play with you because you're a good mentor, I can totally do that. Difficulty is scaled appropriately based on the characters that you fight against. So we support all that stuff. And of course, in terms of communication, we have emotes and things like that, which also add to the overall communication. And then we have the launch bay, which is our social hub, which players can all kind of meet in, group up in, and then go back out on missions. Try, if someone drops out, try to matchmake people back in through normal quick play opportunities, but the balance will change, yes. We're looking into it. It's not going to be at launch, but we've heard the community really wants that, so it's important to us. We're going to be looking at it. Yeah, so whether it's raining, you'll see different behaviors. You can fly longer when it's raining. There's different elements in the game, acid, lightning, fire. The mix and match of those elements basically have different gameplay mechanics. Obviously, buffs and debuffs when mixed with elements, when mixed with rain or nighttime or daytime. They give us a lot of different opportunities to change things in gameplay. So we also have the ability to, on our side, during the nighttime, make certain types of creatures a lot stronger than they were during the daytime, and we can tweak that all kind of real time in the live service as well. We haven't balanced it that way because we don't want to put any particular javelin or play style at a huge disadvantage based on the weather, but I'm sure as the live service continues and as the players play more and more and we see kind of what they're doing, what they're not doing, we'll be able to tweak some of those things. Yeah, so we're hoping to take obviously a measured approach and do a combination of both of them. Ultimately though, it's kind of in the players' hands and the community's hands. So we'll see what the community is really craving once the game comes out. We have some ideas and things that we're already building and stories that we already want to tell that we're kind of creating in the back end. We're tying a lot of it back to the whole ever-changing world idea of the shapers and the tools that they left behind. So there's that. But ultimately, if players want a lot more story content or a lot more replayable content or more strongholds, we can pivot and we're flexible based on all that stuff. Yeah, there's a bunch. The ones that are the most on the nose are obviously the N7, Andromeda Initiative, and Dragon Age type callbacks for the customization, as you mentioned. We're going to leave the rest of them kind of as Easter eggs for players to discover. We want them to be fun little things, but there's a lot in there for players to see. We use BioWare's history of IPs and games throughout, so yeah.
Freelancer, you are the bridge between the heroic adventures discovered in our world and the personal journey that unravels in my story. And ultimately, the key to the fate of everyone.